They were still laughing when she walked into the room. It wasn't loud, just that kind of mean little ripple, the kind that makes you look down even if it's not about you, the kind of laugh that sticks to your clothes after the moment's passed. Mrs. Clarissa Tate didn't flinch. She just kept walking. Her shoes squeaked faintly against the tile, a rhythm only she seemed to hear. In her left hand, a cleaning cart. In her right, an old rag folded twice. She moved like she wasn't there to be seen. But someone saw her. Mr. Klein, the math teacher, young, sharp suit, sharper tongue, had just finished scribbling a dense proof across the board. Senior AP students sat slumped in their chairs, notebooks half full, heads half empty. It was Thursday. Everyone was tired. "Anyone else want to give it a try?" he said, stepping back with the flair of someone used to not being questioned. No one raised a hand. Then he spotted her. Clarissa had just wheeled her cart into the corner by the door, like she always did around this time. Quiet as breath, she was wiping down the windowsill. Klein grinned. "Mrs. Tate," he called out, "you got any insights for us?" She paused. Heads turned. Someone snickered. It wasn't the first time Klein had made a joke like that. Everyone in the room knew it. He'd once asked the lunch lady if she wanted to guest lecture on nutrition. Another time he offered the school security guard a spot in the debate club. Always just loud enough to get a chuckle. Never quite enough to get in trouble. Clarissa straightened slowly. She looked at the board, then at him. "Wasn't planning to," she said, her voice quiet but not soft. "But I could." The room went still. It was like someone had pulled the plug on the moment. Even Klein blinked. "You could?" he echoed, still grinning, but there was hesitation now. The kind that creeps in when you realize your joke might have landed wrong. She nodded. "That's a proof on limits, right?" D. The silence got deeper. Klein's smile twitched, then settled. "Be my guest," he said, stepping aside. Clarissa walked forward without hurry. She didn't put down the rag. She just switched it to her left hand. Her fingers brushed the chalk. Familiar weight. No one was breathing. She glanced at the board. Her eyes moved once, left to right. Then she turned to the class. "You're overcomplicating it," she said. "That's where you lose people. It's simpler if you anchor your delta to the function's slope, especially when the limit exists." And then she started writing. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't fast, but it was clean, precise, like someone folding a sheet just right, corner by corner. She wrote with confidence, with care, with clarity. And when she stepped back, the proof was finished. No skipped steps, no crossed out lines, no hesitation, just the answer. A beat of silence. Then someone in the back whispered, "Holy..." Mr. Klein didn't move. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. The look on his face wasn't anger. It wasn't even embarrassment. It was disbelief. Clarissa turned to him. "That's one way to do it," she said. "There are others." And then she walked back to her cart, picked up the spray bottle, started cleaning the window again, like nothing had happened. But everything had. By sixth period, everyone had heard. It didn't matter if you were in gym, choir, or failing Spanish. Word traveled faster than gossip, louder than the morning announcements. She solved it. No notes, no calculator. Cleaned the window and the board, like she's been waiting for this day. Carly Owens had recorded the whole thing, just a few seconds, a shaky vertical clip from behind her chem textbook. But it was enough. Clarissa's hand moving with slow confidence, the chalk gliding like it had muscle memory. The stunned silence of 20 teenagers and one teacher caught off guard. By the end of the day, the video had over 40,000 views. But Clarissa didn't know that. She was in the supply closet, refilling paper towels and adjusting inventory sheets like she always did before clocking out. The click of the old digital watch on her wrist marked the time. 3:38 p.m. She moved slowly, not because she was tired, but because her thoughts were heavier than usual. When she passed the math hallway again, no one spoke. A few students stared. A couple gave awkward, hesitant smiles. She nodded once, kept walking. Mr. Klein was in his classroom, still staring at the whiteboard. The proof had been erased, but something lingered in the air. Not chalk dust, ego dust. He hadn't said a word after she left. That night, Clarissa sat alone at her kitchen table eating baked sweet potatoes and steamed cabbage out of a plain ceramic bowl. The radio played something soft and old. The apartment was quiet, clean, spare. She opened a drawer. Inside, a manila folder worn at the edges. Inside that, her old transcripts. Georgia Tech mathematics major, nearly a 4.0 GPA. Under that, a crinkled photo, Clarissa, 22, arms around two younger girls, her sisters, smiling, full of sunlight and possibilities. That was before the accident, before everything unraveled. She'd been close to finishing. So close. Then the call came. Her father had died. Her mother, already sick, couldn't manage. The girls, ages 10 and 12, needed someone. And Clarissa didn't hesitate. She left school, went back home, got a job, then another, paid bills, cooked, cleaned, tucked them in every night, helped with homework, fought with landlords, skipped meals, skipped dreams. One semester turned into 5 years. The degree faded into memory, but the math didn't. It never did. The next morning, when Clarissa arrived at school, something was different. Students nodded at her. One boy gave a quiet, "Hey, Mrs. Tate." Another girl asked shyly, "Was that real? What you did yesterday?" Clarissa didn't answer right away, just said, "Sometimes things don't leave you, even if you try." In Mr. Klein's class, things were different too. He didn't make jokes. He didn't point to the door. He taught like someone was watching, his voice flatter, his steps smaller. And then, during lunch, something happened that surprised even her. A knock on the janitor's closet door. It was Lucas Evans, 17, track star, not exactly the studious type. He held out a folded sheet of paper, a math problem, half done. "I've been trying to get this," he said. "It's killing me." Clarissa stared at it, then at him. "You want help?" He nodded. She stepped out, leaned against the wall, took the paper, scanned it, smiled slightly. "You dropped the negative in step 3, she said, "and you're treating the constant like a variable." Lucas looked confused, then amazed. That's what Mr. Klein said too, but it makes sense now." "Good," she said. "It's not about knowing more, just seeing it clearly." He looked up at her. "You used to teach or something?" Clarissa paused. "Not officially." "Maybe you should." She didn't respond, just handed the paper back. But inside, something stirred. Something she thought she'd buried years ago. By Friday, it wasn't just whispers. Students lingered in the hallway where Clarissa cleaned, watching her as if she might solve another equation without warning. A few had questions. Some were shy. Some weren't. "Mrs. Tate, can you help with trig? Do you tutor? You got a YouTube channel or something?" She'd never had so many people say her name at school. For years, she was just the janitor. Now she was something else. No one quite knew what to call her, including her. At 2:17 p.m., during a lull between classes, Principal Flores asked her to stop by the office. He was waiting behind his desk, sleeves rolled, glasses in one hand, expression somewhere between curious and impressed. "Clarissa," he began, "you made quite the impression this week." She stood across from him, no smile, just calm. "I wasn't trying to." I know, but the kids, they're talking about you. A lot. Teachers, too. He folded his hands. Can I ask, what's your background? She hesitated, and then, Georgia Tech. Mathematics? Left before I finished. His eyebrows lifted. Why? She stared out the window behind him. Family. Life. He nodded slowly. You've got a gift, you know. And clearly, the students see that. Clarissa didn't answer. After a pause, he continued, Would you be open to helping with an after-school study group? Voluntary, nothing formal, just guidance. She looked down at her hands. I'll think about it. That night, Clarissa pulled the old storage bin from under her bed. Inside, her calculus books, notes scribbled in faded ink, letters she never sent, one of them addressed to a professor she admired. She'd written it after her second sister got sick, asking for time, for understanding. She never mailed it. She'd assumed she wouldn't be missed. Monday came and something new appeared in the library. A quiet corner, a table with graph paper, highlighters, and a handwritten sign, Ask Mrs. Tate. If she's here, she's listening. No one asked her to make it. She just did. By the end of the week, 10 students had stopped by, some with math problems, some with more. One girl, Elena, asked how to stay focused when her mom worked nights and her brother wouldn't stop playing video games in the same room. Clarissa didn't give advice. She gave presents. She listened. But not everyone was celebrating. In the teacher's lounge, Mr. Klein sat in silence while the others talked. She's got those kids solving problems like it's magic, said Ms. Martinez from physics. She's got me rethinking the chain rule, someone added. Klein didn't join in. He sipped his coffee, eyes on his laptop, face blank. Later that day, when a parent emailed to ask about that incredible proof the janitor wrote, he didn't reply. Instead, he closed his laptop and muttered to himself, This place has gone soft. The tension found its way into the classroom. During a lecture, Klein brought up an old Olympiad problem, one that stumped college students. I don't expect anyone to get this, he said, glancing toward the hallway where Clarissa usually passed by. Nobody laughed. Not this time. That evening, Clarissa walked home through the quiet streets of her neighborhood, keys in one hand, memories in the other. She passed the corner store where she once bought notebooks for her sisters using rolled-up coins, past the apartment where she learned to sleep with one ear open, past the old park bench where she used to study, squinting under a broken streetlight. She was used to going unnoticed, but that wasn't happening anymore. Now people were noticing, and not all of them liked it. It came in the form of a folded piece of paper, no name, no sender, just slipped under the door of Principal Flores' office on a rainy Tuesday morning. Subject, Clarissa Tate, Employment and Instructional Boundaries. Inside, a printed screenshot of a Reddit thread. Why's a janitor doing academic instruction in a public high school? Does she have clearance? Can she even be around kids like that without certification? It wasn't loud, it wasn't public, but it was deliberate. Someone didn't like what was happening. By second period, the principal had already placed a call to the district office, not to report Clarissa, but to defend her. She's not teaching in a formal capacity, he said calmly, just helping students who ask. But the board wanted more. A meeting, a statement, documentation. They used words like protocol, clarity, and precedent. But Clarissa had heard those words before. In rooms where no one was angry, just uncomfortable, unsettled, unwilling to say what they really meant. She found out after lunch. Flores called her in, voice steady, tone gentle. Someone's raised concerns, he said. She sat across from him, hands folded. What kind? He hesitated. That you're not qualified to engage students in instruction, that you might be blurring roles. She didn't flinch, just blinked slowly. Do I need to stop? He leaned back. I'm not asking you to. I just want you to know what's happening. She nodded once, but when she walked out of the office, the air felt colder. Not from the weather, from something else. In the hallway, she passed Mr. Klein. He didn't look at her, didn't nod, just walked by. That afternoon, Clarissa didn't go to the library. She cleaned the gym instead, alone. Her hands moved, but her thoughts stayed still. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe she'd stirred something best left alone. She'd spent years building a life of quiet, steady, predictable. The world had already slammed its door once. She wasn't sure she could take it again. But then, something small. A note taped to her cart. Please come back to the library. I need help with integrals. Zara. A second one folded into her mop handle. My mom said you're smarter than my cousin at MIT. I believe her. Leo. And one more slipped between the bristles of her broom. You help me believe I'm not stupid. Please don't stop. Clarissa read them in silence. Her hands trembled slightly. That night, she pulled out her old Georgia Tech transcript again. She held it for a long time, then picked up the phone. She hadn't called this number in years, but she knew it by heart. It rang twice. Then a voice. Registrar's office. Clarissa cleared her throat. My name is Clarissa Tate. I was a student here a long time ago. I'd like to request a copy of my academic record. Full. A pause on the other end. Sure, we'll send it by email. Anything else? Clarissa looked out her window, rain tapping against the glass. No, she said. That's enough for now. Thursday afternoon, the library was full. Chairs were pulled from other rooms. Backpacks lined the wall. Students from all grades, some who didn't even take math, were there, waiting. Clarissa wasn't. Not yet. They whispered to each other, refreshing phones, glancing toward the door every few minutes like expecting a storm or a blessing. And then she walked in. No announcement, no fanfare. Same navy blue coveralls, same slow gait. But something in her face was different, not louder, firmer. She carried no books, no clipboard, just a folded sheet of paper in her back pocket. It was her transcript. She didn't plan to show it. She just needed to feel it there, like armor. Clarissa stepped up to the whiteboard. The chatter faded instantly. She wrote a single equation, f of x equals the absolute value of x divided by x. Then turned to them. Who knows what happens at x equals 0? A few hands rose. Some were eager, some were nervous. She nodded at one boy. It's undefined, he said, because the function jumps. She nodded. Correct. It doesn't know which way to go. She paused. And sometimes that's people too. A soft murmur passed through the room. She continued, her voice even. Some of you asked why I know this stuff, why I don't teach, why I'm here. I won't give you a dramatic story, just a true one. And she did. In that quiet room surrounded by bright-eyed teenagers and bent-over notebooks, Clarissa told her story about Georgia Tech, about her sisters, about the call that changed everything, about wiping down floors while solving calculus in her head, about choosing duty over dreams and still loving both. She didn't cry. She didn't preach. She just told the truth. The students didn't clap, not because they weren't moved, but because the moment felt too real to interrupt. Later that day, someone uploaded a clip, just her words. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is show up, even if nobody's asking you to. By morning, the video had 300,000 views. Teachers watched it during planning periods. Parents shared it with captions like, "This is what schools need more of." But Clarissa didn't watch it. She was fixing a broken water fountain on the second floor, with her gloves on, her hair tied back, and her mind still working through a problem she saw scribbled on a locker earlier that day. And then something unexpected. Mr. Klein showed up at her library table. He stood quietly as she explained a function to a freshman girl with tear-smudged notes. Then, when the girl left, he spoke. "You used a right-hand limit to explain identity functions," he said. "Never thought to do that." Clarissa nodded. "It helps." A pause. "Mind if I sit in sometime?" She met his eyes. "No," she said, "but don't expect a chalk show." He smiled. "I'll bring my own." That evening, Principal Flores forwarded an email to Clarissa. It was from the district office. They were impressed, curious, hopeful. Would she be open to leading a pilot enrichment program for underperforming math students? Not as a janitor, not as a teacher, but as something in between. Clarissa stared at the screen, then slowly typed, "Let's talk, but I don't need a title. I just need a table and time." By the end of the month, Tate's table wasn't just a nickname anymore. It was laminated. The library carved out a permanent corner, a round table, 2 shelves, a whiteboard with fresh markers and an open invitation. Come with questions, leave with confidence. Clarissa didn't ask for any of it, but she didn't turn it down either. Every Tuesday and Thursday she sat at that table, coveralls still on, ID badge still clipped to her pocket. The mop cart parked respectfully nearby, because she hadn't given up that part of herself, not even for a second. They came in waves. Freshmen who had failed their last 2 quizzes, seniors terrified of calculus finals, kids who had never asked a question out loud in class. They came because she didn't talk down to them, because she didn't make math a performance, because she didn't care if they had the right answer, only that they kept asking. One afternoon, a student named Kai brought her a hand-drawn flyer. It read, "You're more than what they see." Underneath, a sketch of her with chalk in one hand and a rag in the other, a mop leaning against a whiteboard. She didn't say anything. She just folded the paper once, then tucked it into the same envelope as her old transcript. Spring came fast, with it the annual student showcase night. Clarissa didn't plan to attend, she never did, but that evening, as she was locking up the supply room, she heard her name over the PA system. "Mrs. Tate, please come to the gymnasium." She hesitated, wiped her hands on her pants, and walked. The gym was full. Parents, teachers, kids in button-ups and dresses, science fair boards, choir harmonies, echoing off the walls. But in one corner, a booth she hadn't seen before. It wasn't fancy. A corkboard, a few printed graphs, a stack of handwritten notes with thumbtacks poked through the corners. Above it, in blue marker, "Tate taught me." She walked up slowly, read the notes one by one. "I stopped believing I was dumb. Now I want to teach one day." She gave me the words when I couldn't say them myself. She didn't just teach me math. She taught me I was allowed to take up space. Her throat tightened. Behind her, students gathered. Some of them had tears in their eyes. Wesley, one of the first kids to ever come to her for help, handed her a small, worn-out calculator. It didn't work anymore. But on the back was a sticker that read, "Keep solving." Clarissa didn't speak to the crowd. She didn't need to. She just nodded. And for the first time since all of this began, since the joke, the board, the silence, she smiled not from surprise, but from peace. That night, back home, she placed the stickered calculator next to the photo of her and her sisters, the one taken just before everything changed. She pulled out her old Georgia Tech sweatshirt, folded it once, set it down gently, then picked up a fresh notebook. On the first page, she wrote, What happens when the limit approaches respect, and underneath, it becomes recognition? Clarissa never became a teacher in the traditional sense. She never chased a degree again, never asked for a title, but students kept coming. Some graduated and came back to visit. Some sent postcards from their college dorms. One even became a teacher, taping a photo of Clarissa to the inside of their desk drawer. A quiet reminder of what's possible when someone sees beyond offered her a formal mentorship role. She accepted but insisted they leave her cleaning schedule untouched because she didn't want to be elevated above the work. She wanted students to see that brilliance didn't require leaving your station. Sometimes it meant owning it fully while still lifting others. She was still sweeping hallways, still unlocking classroom doors before the sun rose, still fixing jam dispensers and uncooperative light bulbs. But now, she was also unlocking people. And when they told the story, when the students whispered it to the freshmen who hadn't seen it for themselves, they never said, "She used to be the janitor." They said, "That's Mrs. Tate. She's the reason I believed I could."